Okay, we're going to start. Today's Monday, October 12th. We're going to start the Facilities Committee meeting for Daniel Boone Area High School. And I'll start by, let's announce our names. Kevin Strobel.
Bucky Scott.
Kristen Thompson.
Greg Cooper.
Julie Olson.
Rob Rowley. Steve Biggership.
Okay. And with that, we can go ahead and jump right in. Steve, and I'm going to let you steer. How's that?
Okay. Okay, here we go. So the first thing on the agenda this evening is the Chiller Tower High School cost estimate plan for repairs. This past week, well, actually last week, we had another contractor come out and take a look at our situation with the chiller towers. We did a walkthrough on proposals for which he's recommending. His proposals are a lot less cost than what we were looking at with the backhoe. So we're going to take the time and do some minor work to see if we can get the system back up and functioning at a lower cost. There's no guarantees that it's going to do repairs, and there probably is going to be additional cost, but we're trying to get away from spending all that money on replacement or relocation of the power, the piping system. We don't have to at this time.
Was the difference in cost close to what the monthlies are for the rental?
No, it's like 50% of what he was proposing.
Okay.
The backhoe was close to 100 or a little over 100,000. Even if we do the full boat, looking with Berkshire Mechanical, we're probably looking at less than half of that.
Oh, it's over half. Okay, wow.
Yeah, so we want to definitely explore that option and look at the cost issue so we can reduce, and then if we do find out that we can get the system functioning the way we want to with Berkshire Mechanical, then we would do an evaluation of the system as a whole and then put that as a future project to replace that unit. But being the age of it right now, the biggest issue is the baffling check valves, heat exchanger in the current system. So he's going to start by replacing the check valve on the unit where it goes into the building, do some baffling work, do an inspection, clean up the inside of the unit, recaulk, reseal, do some adjustments, and then pull a prime on the unit and see if it holds. We could do some work with the heat exchanger because I know that's taking some damage. But we'll base it on what we see after it gets the unit running again.
Did he feel there was a full replacement necessary, or does he feel that the repairs, you got a second bid and they're like 50% less, and so there's, I'm sure, line item, it's got to be something?
I would rather see if we can get this unit, because the age of it is only 5 years old. And so in my mind, it's a premature failure, and I want to know why, and I want to know if it's, so spending a few thousand, versus going for a total replacement. I think that's where we're at.
But wasn't the whole setup wrong? I mean, from the very beginning, the whole thing's set up improperly, and it's not running, the gravity feeds aren't running at the rate that we're supposed to be. Is that what the other company said?
The other company, and this has been my past experience, most times when you have a chiller tower, it's usually located above where your main pumping room is. And I've seen that throughout my career. I have seen other units on the ground like this one is here. However, it was the length of the run and the 90-degree angles on the turns. So the unit's basically sitting level here. It's going up 6 to 12 feet on a piping run, going into the building, down underneath into the hallways, above the hallway ceilings, running another 300 to 500 feet into our main pumping room. And that's what's drawing the pressure to pull that through the system.
Right.
This contractor theorizes that the faulty check valve and the baffling erosion inside the unit caused the piping to clog. Ultimately, it burst in the A-section hallway there, where we had to have circle open out and clean it before the beginning of the school year. The problem with these units are a lot of them are site-specific, so they're built to meet the needs upon design as it's put in there. So it's not like you can go and get one off the shelf somewhere. It actually has to be designed.
Right.
So rather than spending a full boat, which could be upwards around $160,000 with engineering costs, I I think it's prudent that we don't try to explore this and save the district money and then plan that replacement over time. So that's what I'm leaning towards right now. Obviously, we bring different vendors out here to give you different takes on it.
So was the 50% savings repairing it versus replacing?
There's a 50% savings if we repair it.
Instead of
And
replacing.
5 years old, I want to try and explore that and see if we can save the money.
And you'll get a second bid for the repair? Is that what, okay, I got it.
So basically, we're going to start with a check valve replacement as soon as he can get the parts. And we'll try and prime it, and then we'll go into the baffling and the heat exchanger and other stuff, maybe a little bit at a time.
All those 90s are hard too on that head pressure, so.
That's correct.
Just the
Plus,
bottom.
not only that, but the system when it was originally piped didn't have any J-traps, no traps in it for you to, so basically you have the pump on one end drawing all that pressure coming through those lines on a 5-inch line, nowhere for you to clean it out. So if it gets clogged, there's nowhere to clean it out past the check valve.
Okay.
And which makes no sense. But a lot of that work we could probably do in-house, adding, replacing, taking a time over the summer or during a break, and pulling the system down, replacing a lot of that internally, rather than going to a third party.
It's the best news I heard all day. Save money.
So I'll know more in November when I come back from my next
Okay.
meeting, and then that gives the board a little bit of time, catching a break here, basically, because the weather's changed.
Do you think we'll be able to get to not have to rent that machine, the other chiller? Is that what you're going to do? Send that one back while you're repairing this since the temperature went down?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So hopefully, and that is, I think that machine is $12,000 a month. So
Yeah, that was our whole purpose for trying to run it. It's a little harder, but slow walk's always better. So no, great job. Thank you.
yep, and we're in the middle of heating season starting. So the maintenance staff has been pulling down. We replaced every filter at every building again within the 3-month time period, as we said we would in the schools. So they've been great. They've stayed on it, and the maintenance as a whole is far better than we were 6 months ago.
Awesome. That's good news.
The next item on was the Legion Field discussion for repair work request. So one of the maintenance persons for Halter's, Colin Halter, who's here with us tonight, is on the Legion board, and they've been approaching him about repair work that they want to do on the baseball field down at right there on Main Street in Burnsville. Some of the things they need, and in the meantime, I have to say that they've done a phenomenal job and put out a lot of money on going to the baseball field this year. They're building a new 2-story concrete block building in the back where they're going to have second floor as an announcement part, and the first floor is going to be storage. They're going to use the existing building, I believe, for concessions or something along those lines. But they're reaching out because they want to do some improvements to the field, and there's some things that are necessary that need to be done.
Yeah, before you got here, they redid that whole field, and the Halters can pretty much back me up on this. They were out there and pretty much found out that when it was done, the way it was done was all wrong. And so we ended up putting all the caps on the top of it. So what's the total cost?
Well, they had 3 separate things. And the drainage has been better, I think, overall. So what they did and what they spent was quite a bit of money to get that fixed.
Okay.
Has resolved a lot of the issues. I was skeptical about that, but it does look like it's working properly. So some of the things they're looking at is they want to replace the backstop fence around home plate, the whole thing, and that's about $9,000.
Is it the padding or the backstop fence? Because it says padding on backstop here.
Yeah, I believe that originally it was called padding, but I'm thinking that they're actually saying the backstop itself, the fencing. They would go with the powder-coated fencing that goes up around the whole thing for the backstop.
It's deteriorating. I mean, I don't know what kind of condition it's in. So,
I'm sorry.
what kind of condition is it in?
I'm
What kind
sorry.
of condition is it in? I mean, is it deteriorating completely? Is it starting to fall apart?
It's
I mean, they
in
do a
bad
lot.
shape.
We have our baseball there. I mean, how many teams are actually meeting there now?
It's in bad shape. It's dented in. There's a lot of rust and corrosion on the fencing itself. So there's no doubt that it could use to be replaced. Something else they've reached out to us about is the fencing in right field, the one that we replaced or repaired. And I believe it was one of my first meetings here last November sometime. They want to replace that whole fence because it's falling down. and they're saying that's $5,000. And then
Is that in here, or is that something separate?
they gave me the pricing tonight. There was supposed to be some other people here, but one of the board members from the Legion had a relative that passed away, so she could not make it tonight to talk about it.
So the complete outfield fence and the complete backstop?
The right field fence.
Oh, just the right field fence?
Right field fence and backstop. So 9 for the backstop, 5,000 for the right field fence line. And then the other thing would be the leveling of the outfield warning track. So when you walk that field and you get to the warning track, which is the area back by the center field fence, all the way around from right to left field, it's unlevel. It's got a hill in it. So basically the stadium with PIAA and do some maintenance out there because you have a lot of material that builds up on the outside, and the way it's cut, they want to level that. And that would be at the hourly rate of what Walters charges for the landscaping. So probably not a costly thing to do.
$1,000, $500, $2,000?
If I had to guess, I'd say a couple thousand most. And then they also wanted to be sure that we were going to continue with the lawn mowing.
Right.
And I said that was really a board decision about, not really my, determination.
Dr. Cooper, has anything changed that would stop us from continuing that? We've been doing that forever, that mowing service? The mowing service for over there, I mean, is there anything that you've seen nothing's changed, we would continue that? I mean,
With that field over there?
for the field, we've been mowing it for forever. I thought there were some alternative things going on. There's a contract somewhere where this got road nipped and some of these things were changed, which I don't have. Do you have that?
No, we still do maintain that field.
Yeah, I thought we did. So nothing's changed, so we would continue that. So there's no reason that we would stop. I mean, it's a good relationship between the Legion field and the
Nothing's
school.
changed on our part.
Okay.
We're still cutting the grass there every week.
Yeah, that would continue.
I think it's more over their concern, that we're going to bail on them, basically.
Okay.
From that next standpoint. Which I don't know why we would think that. I mean, I haven't given them no indication.
Yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason to bail.
So they're reaching out, and they wanted to bring these issues to discussion with the board, and I'm sure we'll hear more.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we have to consider too is we got to watch what we spend for. Is it just boys baseball there? Because we can talk to Steve. I mean, there's some issues. We have to watch what we spend on just boys sports versus girls sports. We ran into that last time we were doing something at the Legion Field. So
You're referencing the Title IX, make sure.
Title IX, exactly. So it's got to all has to fit in there. So yeah, we can talk about it then. I mean, come up with the decision doesn't have to be made tonight. Okay. No, I mean, like I said, there's been a good relationship all the way through. I see no reason not to, but no. We'll talk about it.
I mean, they're doing a lot of good work, and it is for the community, so I definitely want to support it, but I know that there are limitations because, we should do for both. If we're going to spend money, I just, they brought it to my attention, I wouldn't do it.
Any other board members have any questions about it? No? No? Okay. District storage?
District storage, oh boy, this is a big one. Now, I know that, I don't know if we're going to be long for Birdsboro or not, or if that building's going to continue to be around for a long period of time. I happened to be there today at 2 p.m. I had a meeting there with a contractor. One of the discussions, or one of the things you notice when you walk through that building, other than the abundant life side of the building, looks very nice. They do a very good job keeping up. The gym downstairs looks very nice, very well taken care of. But when you go around to the second and third floor, the basement, storage areas for the building, you're going to find that there is a ton of things in those buildings that are from Birdsboro and from other buildings in the district. You're going to find snow blowers. You're going to find floor cleaning furnitures and machines. You're going to find a ton of stuff. Desks, books, CRT televisions, the older type, kitchen equipment, on and on and on, tables, some preschool equipment, a lot of other stuff. So that being said, go to the old admin building, to the few rooms that we have left on the second floor, and of course the old district offices. There's a ton more of stuff that's over there, desks, equipment, tables, cleaning stuff.
How much of it's sitting and rotting away
It is
versus
sitting and rotting away.
versus something that maybe we could get something for, or is it reused? So does somebody want to? We went through that building when they were moving everything out, and a lot of that stuff upstairs was just left. So we probably should take an inventory of it at one point, find out what we have and what are we going to keep and what do we need to move. And what's in the other places? Isn't there a basement in each one of the buildings that have a lot of storage in them as well?
Yeah, I mean,
And how much of that stuff do we not need? I mean,
if you even go to the middle school, MEC, AIC, I was over at AIC today, we had a problem with one of our ejector pumps. So I'm trying to get to the panel, to look at the panel, and you can't get to the panel.
Right.
There's so much stuff shoved in these rooms, it almost looks like a horror TV show. And it's in every building, this
Right.
building included, the basement.
is there anywhere accounting of all that stuff, like a list of anything what's at buildings?
And not that I could find it, it desperately needs to be done. I mean, I'm all for saving stuff that could be used, but in this case, if it's sat for 5 years, since we moved from, internal services to contracted services, that equipment has been sitting there for that long. Since we closed Birdsboro, that equipment, and Amity, that equipment has been sitting there for that long. And my thought process is, not only is it a hazard, from a fire standpoint, from a life safety standpoint, to have this stuff sitting around, but it's certainly not going to grow in value if it's sitting there. It's going to depreciate. And I just think that we really need to, as a district, think about where we're going in the future, and maybe we can shed some of this equipment. My fear is that, we would sell Birdsboro in the future, and then they're just going to say, well, we have to be out of the building in 30 days, and I'm going to be, well, where do I put all this stuff? Do I throw it out? What do I do with it? I mean, I think we just need to get it.
I don't think we're anywhere near that right now, to be honest with you, that I know of.
Right.
So, but taking an inventory of all the stuff in the buildings is probably a great idea. It's just who has time. We got to make the time eventually. But
And the other thing too is, if we were going to reopen Birdsboro, let's take it the other way. Would that equipment necessarily be functional for a building? I
right,
don't think so at this point. And I think there's a lot of issues with it. Other than maybe some saving tables like these or chairs, which is a ton of, I don't see the need to save flip top desks unless the district all of a sudden is going to thrive in elementary, students.
I think a lot of those were saved at the time. I wasn't here for that, but I had heard stories that they saved them for parts.
They're
So.
So,
I think once you get an inventory, you'll be able to have a better idea of what you need. I mean,
okay, I mean, I don't know how we go about that. I've never been in a school system like that. I don't know if we bring someone in, I don't know how we do the inventory.
I don't know of a service that does it, but I mean, at one point we just got to sit down and what do we have? I mean, someone's got to walk by with a notepad. I would think, no?
Yeah, typically we just do an internal.
Do an internal inventory, yeah.
Or internal.
And then you would know after going through all the buildings that 50% of your space taken up by old desks that we were keeping that we don't even probably have the desks that we were saving the parts for anymore. So it's possible. I don't know.
I've had the opportunity in the past few months to walk through there with teachers and stuff looking at equipment, and a lot of them don't want it because it's not in the best of shape for one. Secondly, it's out of date. No one's going to use 25 CRT televisions anytime in the future. You know what I'm saying? So I think we should cut our losses and see if we can get something for it and put the money back into the schools.
Right.
And so certainly we can inventory, we can make a recommendation for that.
To do an inventory? Okay.
Last item on here, we could finish early, I'm not going to talk early. Last item on here would be the contracted services monthly update. Cost containment, I think that with the new FMX system that the board approved back in July, it is really giving us a good look in at what our costs are.
What was the name of that again?
The FMX system.
FMX, yeah.
Right. I'm able now to pull reports. I'm hoping to pull one for the board to look at for this meeting next month, where it will show the costs over the quarter, what we put out, how many man hours, it would break down their costs, the cost of the equipment,
Is this the system for all the internal tickets that we used to do on a spreadsheet before?
Yes.
Okay.
And these guys are doing a phenomenal job. I check the system every day. You know, you'll some days see we're up to 40 or 50 tickets, and then like last Friday, I think we were down to 10 tickets on there. So it's really a good system when people utilize it, and I think it was money well spent. And I'm hopefully be able to present you guys with the cost analysis, and then at the end of the year or when we come up, we can actually look at real costs and not estimate, what we're spending. We're done.
That's great.
So I think that's a positive. And I think, it's very good of the board to approve that.
All the tickets won't be closed ever. However, I'm sure that you're being able to wrap your hands around the order in which they get done, and we don't have building principals and vice principals running around opening tickets and chasing that stuff down anymore. So it's a huge win. Nice job.
It gives you an element of predictability. You can say when there, well, look, we've repaired the store 10 times in the last 6 months, because now you can see it, follow it, and then say, hey, look, it's time, we're close to replacement costs. You can make better decisions from a maintenance standpoint, rather than having the same teacher not be able to be into a closet for 2 months. So
Awesome.
that's a positive. Transportation update. So we're still struggling in transportation, not so much because the new hosting system isn't working well. We're working out the bugs. Info Finder was still not online as of Friday. This morning I came in, our IT department reached out to me. They think they have it fixed now. So
And which,
hopefully
what,
we'll be able to-
that, is that the Transfinders?
Yeah, TransFinder Route Builder is the program that routes the buses and shows the maps and where you can put the students, pull reports.
Is this all new software?
Yeah,
It's all new, and is it not?
What happened was we used to do it internal on our own servers. However, they're very slow and you could not work on it from anywhere. Now that it works being hosted, it's much faster. You can work on multiple locations. So if I want to take my laptop home and sit and punch kids into the system or my iPad, I can. Because it works basically like logging into an app from having it just be in one spot to work. It's also much faster.
How's the GSP side of it work? Is that the issue?
It was the issue, not only that, but it was losing data. So it was bleeding data, and you would, spend 2 hours putting data in, and it would just disappear. You come back the next day, and it'd be gone. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the honest truth. And so now all that stuff is resolved, and Info Finder is a subset to TransFinder. That allows the buildings...
Input?
Info Finder.
Oh, info.
And then that allows the building secretaries and outside sources to be able to see school bus routing information, CAS, student information. And it's usually given to building secretaries, athletics, transportation companies, so that they can see the actual student route and provide times. The other portion of that is Infinite Campus was not talking with our TransFinder system. That issue has been resolved. So Infinite Campus is pretty much up to date now. But we're still struggling in a lot of ways. One of the ways is like today, it's Monday, it's the first day of the week, and I've already got 20 more kids that we're going to have to transport next week. already. So we're averaging somewhere 25 to 35 per week that are coming back from virtual. Or parents have them on an IEP and they need to be bused every week. Monday through Thursday, and some students we still bring in 5 days depending on their learning abilities and whatnot like that. So the problem with that is when you look at long term, we're 2 months into school, and now we're gaining over time 30 kids a week, 30 kids a week. In 5 weeks, you're at 150 kids. So then maxes the bus capacity down. Now we have to go back in and reroute these buses because the board is saying we can only have 44 kids on a bus, when in years past we only had 72. You know what I mean? You can put 72 or 84 on a bus, depending on the bus length. So with those limitations in mind, costs are going to slowly climb. And they're going to continue to climb because we're going to have to add more buses on in order to accommodate the students that are coming back. And right now, I would say we're at a handful of buses that are at that capacity. But if we continue this trend and we have more and more students registering, I mean, we had 10 new students last week that registered, period. There were never a game room before, which is great. But at the same time, it stresses the transportation out and causes problems because every time we change these routes, we have to notify the parents that there's been a change in times and the routing has changed or the bus numbers changed. So parents get stressed out, students get stressed out. You'll have a student, I rode 65 for a year, now all of a sudden I'm on 58. Well, this is the reason why, because we have the social distance. In checking with our contractors, looking at costs, we have not had to add another bus, but we could soon be at that point where we're going to have to notify contractors we have to get another bus on the system, which raises the cost of transportation. So I'm just kind of letting everyone know that that could be coming.
Is this a governor mandated thing with buses? And are the other schools having to follow the same 44 per bus? That's a question I have no idea.
Yeah, part of our, and Mr. Hurley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, part of our health and safety plan include what our requisites are on the budget.
Yes, the 44 is in our health and safety plan. Obviously, the board could modify that at their discretion, but that would take a board action.
My question is was it something that the board thought up, or is it something that we followed in the mandate, and where are we at in terms of we have minimal COVID outbreaks, and so what we're doing is working, so you know what I mean? So I think it's a good thing that we're doing the things we're doing. It's just I wonder at what point do we make those adjustments, and when can you make those adjustments? I don't know.
The limits that we placed on the buses had to do with both it was done through the COVID task force that met over the summer. It was input from the Department of Health, Department of Education.
Right.
In addition to that, it was also with input from our transportation providers, because there are certain protections for the driver that maybe would enable you to add a couple more students to the bus, but because for safety reasons, the bus driver cannot have the extra protection of like plexi behind them because of safety in case of an accident, it would cause problems, and the limitations to face coverings that they can wear while they're driving. It was something that we settled on that provided protections both for our students and for the driver.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So, that's where we're at. If I had to guess, I'd say we're a handful now and see, here's the thing, it's not it's a very difficult prospect to estimate how many kids are going to go on that bus, and I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of times we'll route the bus, we'll limit it to maybe 40 kids. Most days you're way underneath that, depending on what parents are doing and, back and forth, but I don't want to be caught in a position where, you said you have 44 kids on this bus, and now you have 45. So I don't want us to get to that point. So I think we need some discussion, when do we say, hey, once we reach 40, we should start adding another bus, and I don't know.
Maybe
I don't think we got that far in the original plan.
Right.
I don't think anybody knew or could predict what was going to happen.
How many weeks do you want to go at 40 before we start talking about it? How soon does it take to get another bus? They're all questions that you probably have to figure out. How long after you notify does it take to put another bus into the route? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
One of the bus companies?
Fits with the health and safety plan.
How long does it normally take?
Takes about 6 to 8 weeks on the conservative side, and it takes about $3,500 to train a school bus driver. We don't have unlimited drivers sitting around. We don't have unlimited vehicles sitting around. But what Mr. Biggerstaff says is we are seeing those numbers creep up on
Right.
paper. Does that translate to how many kids are actually riding the bus is a question that's out there. But on paper, we are definitely seeing those kids creep up. And like you said, it's in areas. We know where people, out in Unionville, you're not seeing a lot, but then Gramercy Gardens or, there are pockets where the numbers keep getting higher and higher.
Right.
It's not an unlimited resource to drivers, and I like what you said, Ms. Olson, that, we kind of have an unwritten contract with these drivers that there's going to be social distancing on the bus, that the kids are going to be wearing masks, that there's going to be a certain level of safety that we are advocating for them
Sure.
so that they can stay safe as they're driving as well. So, just
Absolutely. Yeah, their safety's important. Thank you.
So I mean, it's a level of concern for me, going forward. I don't know how we should approach, I'm not sure like how we should, once I hit 40, should I just notify Dr. Cooper?
Again,
Are these for the elementary runs and the secondary runs?
What do you think, John? I'm thinking it's actually the elementary or primary center.
I think that the separating the A and B weeks has really kept the high school and middle school without an issue. Most of those are, 25, 30, we're not seeing any trouble there. The elementary runs are where we're seeing problems, with as many as, there's one bus that I know that has over 50, the kids that are supposed to ride. Now, they're not all right, because we're watching that every day, but, that's where the problems are happening.
just rerouting it all assist in this process. So you have a bus somewhere that's doing 30, and you just keep rerouting. And I know the parents are going to really be upset. Parents are going to really be upset, and it's a lot of work. And I get it. I'm not throwing it out there like you should do this. It's just it makes me wonder how many buses do we have that have 30 or 35 that we can maybe reroute. And I have no idea. I've never saw your routing software. What it takes to do it.
It's difficult to just reroute one bus. That's the thing,
Right.
You have one bus and you have one problem. Well, that creates an issue over here, creates an issue over here.
It's a
So you
snowball.
end up doing an entire grade level
Right.
to be able to make it fit. So we did, Steve and I worked a lot of hours to change. There's one particular bus that has had a lot of issues, and this bus happens to be one that goes to intermediate center and primary center. So that caused an issue as well, but we were able to do what we needed to do, but it ended up changing 4 other buses.
Right.
So then that requires a lot of work for Steve and Amy to be able to call all those parents, give them all different times, and then the next day 5 more kids add, and we have to call them all back again.
Right.
So there's a lot of time that goes into one small change.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question for both you and Steve. So at the beginning of the school year, we had asked parents, we had kind of made it clear how difficult this transportation issue was, and we had asked some parents if they would be willing to give up their kid's seat on a bus for the whole year. And we had a certain number of parents who agreed to that. And what I hear is that there are still a group of parents that did not agree to that, so their kid has a seat on the bus, but they are still driving them to school. Would it be beneficial to us to maybe buy bus, like reach out again and say, hey, we're in the situation where we have 35 kids that come on the bus every day, and but that bus is like close to its limit per our health and safety plan. Would any of the other parents that are on this bus be willing to sign off on their transportation for the year, or at least while we're in COVID times? I don't know. I'm asking if that, because right now you are in a situation where if, EMP goes off and everybody's car doesn't work, but somehow your bus is still working. When all those parents said, okay, my kid's going on the bus today, but they haven't done the whole year, you'd be over.
Right. What made me really nervous? Early dismissal we had.
Yes.
We had no idea if we were
What would
going
happen?
to have an issue,
Yes.
or we have to have an early dismissal.
And that's, yeah.
Those are the kind of times when we would get nervous. I think that would be a good idea.
You might be able to do it per area that you're seeing issues, just to see if you get
10.
if you get a handful of folks, taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
it might push that full capacity number down enough that we wouldn't, and I don't want to nickel and dime it. If we need another bus, we need another bus, but as you said, getting that online and moving things around, to, you know, notify parents that finally might be able to guarantee that their kid's bus is going to show up at the same time, you know, after the first three days of school or whatever. I know it was a little longer this year, but, you know, to have us come back and say, you know what, you know, because your neighborhood's so popular now, we're going to put you on a different bus and it's going to be a problem again, you know, and, you know, so we can avoid that for as long as possible. I guess it's, you know,
I think it's
we can't avoid forever, yes.
That's extremely reasonable to make that request. I mean, what if you find 5 or 10 and eliminates your problem? You just never know.
I don't know how to do that reach out, if it's something that we would do through a targeted email.
We did a bus opt-out back in, I think it was August, I can't remember now. August, I think it was mid-August. And we did probably about, I think initially we had about 500 parents that responded with an opt-out. Certainly wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be significantly more than that. But a lot of parents are fine with, you know, their students riding the bus. And if anything, I'm seeing, you know, I can only speak from my side. I don't know what the education side is, the curriculum side is. But from my side, I think we're seeing a lot of students and parents that are saying, I can't do virtual.
Yeah,
So you're having a ton more students come back
absolutely.
to school, which I totally get. I'm a parent, I got a kid, you can't do virtual, I'm telling you. So,
I also think that if you go out and ask parents, would you be able to opt out on bus? A lot of parents will say, I could in the morning, but I can't in the afternoon or something along those lines. And I get that too, but I mean, I don't think it would hurt to ask.
Is there any possibility of making it more permanent? So this is for the next quarter or the next, you know, we have to have a time frame because it does take 6 weeks to ramp up. It's not fair to the bus company. It's not fair to you. Which I think it's not that it's not merited. It's true. And so why couldn't we present it to the parents that way?
You mean if parents were going to bring their kids in?
We either or. This is your decision.
In the middle of the quarter, then
Ask for next in the middle of the quarter. Ask for next quarter for a decision for that entire quarter. This is you got to live and die by it, and then that eliminates the variableness of it, which prevents us from being able to properly social distance or help the bus company manage our needs. I don't think it's unrealistic to ask for a quarter commitment at
I
all.
also think that, you know, all of our parents are in unique situations.
Sure.
So, you know, it doesn't resolve the issue if there's occasionally exceptions, right?
Yeah, there's always going to be.
It doesn't 100% resolve.
Versus the rule that, you know, hey, you can come back whenever you want, or not. Because that's what they heard in the beginning. So, good suggestion.
Do you have a calculation or an idea of how many seats are actually assigned to bus versus how much the ridership is per bus?
I can
Track that.
It seems difficult because we've had so many problems with our computer system that I've also found, and I'm sure John can say this too inside, that we've also found a lot of students who aren't riding. You know, even if they're scheduled to have a bus. So I think it's a little bit, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to put it back out to parents and say, will you be using transportation this year or not? Can you give us a guarantee that you won't? A lot of what I'm seeing right now is we have a lot of people that opted out originally, and now they're, you know, mom and dad may be going back to work. So they, you know.
But you don't have a good count.
I do not, I don't have.
But you also don't have a good count for the folks that originally did not opt out.
That's correct.
But then their kids not still not on the bus. Because I'm one of those.
Get out. Go to school.
Something for mine to figure out.
No, it's a good.
I'm willing to do. I mean, if we want to do another, you know, external poll, I'm totally in. I think that's probably a very good idea. I just don't know what it's going to yield.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to solve all the problems. I'm just saying it might at least have a clearer picture of what the problem is.
Dr. Cooper, is it unreasonable to ask the parents to make a commitment on a quarterly basis? I mean, how else do you route your busing? I mean, obviously it's going to be emergencies, but you can knock maybe 40% or 30% of it out.
I mean, let's say they're opted out so that they don't need it, and then an emergency comes up, they do need it, we're holding to that, so that's a challenging situation,
It is.
a difficult situation.
You'd probably still bend the rule, but versus just an open end where I can wake up this morning and decide not to go.
I mean, if as a district, we're committed to providing transportation service to our students, it's kind of hard to, I believe, recommend saying, or you said you can't, what's the exception and what are the rules, what's the list of exceptions, so I think that's difficult.
Right.
I would rather take a look right now and see what our number of seats that we
Okay.
assign, and then what is our ridership.
Right.
That particular bus town, that we have some routes that are, I think, more
Open.
consistent.
Right. Okay.
That day first before we get on the other route. I'd say we should do that first.
We could definitely do, when I can work with Scott, we could put something out to parents, have them respond to it, and then go from there, maybe get on tape the next board meeting. I'm just concerned because, John is mentioning it would take 6 to 8 weeks to get out of the bus, and I'm concerned I'm gonna get to the point where I'm gonna reach that capacity and we're gonna, don't wanna put the district in a bad spot, I don't want to.
Good point.
The last item I had on there was the LED lighting switch over in the house. So Jason DeGona, who's here with us tonight, reached out to me last week. He knows since I've been here, I've been wanting to switch over to LEDs for our parking lot lights. They're exploring that now and being able to do it internally, so it would just be the cost of getting the unit. And then you would just cut the ballast out of the system, direct the lighting inside, which would go from a high pressure sodium bulb, which is what most of our buildings, all of our buildings are, to an LED and reduce cost over time. So we're exploring that. I should be able to present some part numbers hopefully next month and what the cost would be, so that the board can approve it and we can move forward. And then right now the big challenge is just getting anything for the buildings. We're still not able to get a lot of our equipment in a timely fashion. One of the issues is the decking for the bathrooms down here. The stadium is rotted in several spots. So we tried to get, anyone to commit to getting us pressure treated wood in a timely manner. And it's like a 1 month to 2 month lead time. So.
And the long pieces are impossible. Yeah, you're not getting them.
That's where we're at. I think it's just code. So.
Yep.
That's all I had, so I appreciate your time.
I do want to mention that I received an email and a packet from bus companies regarding the RFP, and we'll get you an answer here soon. I didn't get a chance to read it, so we're just coming on it today. Any other questions? Anybody?
Thank you.
That concludes our meeting for today.